Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. I am in a happy mood. My name is Nick Miller, and I am joined with my best good buddy, Mr. John Bunn. John Bunn, how are you today?
I'm great. It's 2023. I never thought that I just, when I was a kid, it's like, wow, the year 2000 is coming in like 8 years. I never thought like 2023 would be a thing, but here we are. The year, it's going to be a good year. And a lot of great things coming up, Nick. Our Mastermind group opens in just a couple of weeks. A lot of interest in that. If you don't know about it, where you been? But our Mastermind group opens, and we also just interviewed Maddie and Felicia, former Mastermind alumni from iHeart Creative. They are awesome. They're based out of Santa Barbara. Always so much fun to chat with them.
Always.
They're talking all things Super 8 today. And we get asked about this from time to time, and there's just so much interest around this subject. So we talked all about Super 8, how to get into it, what kinds of cameras, film, how to process it. Just kind of a mini crash course on filming Super 8. But Nick, I'm doing really well. Holidays were great. I'm excited about the new year. Before we jump into it, I hate to not ask, how are you doing?
I'm good. We've gotten into this pattern where I introduce us and I ask how you are, and you like say all these things. You like tee up the episode really, really well, and you're like, wait, I forgot to ask how you are.
I care how you're doing.
I know. I'm good. I'm well. It's a new year. Let's get into the episode. So again, we had Maddie and Felicia from iHeart Creative. So let's go ahead and jump into that.
Let's go.
Well, I would like to welcome some best good friends of mine, Felicia and Maddie of iHeart Creative. Ladies, hello. How are you doing today?
We're so good. We're successful. How are you?
You're stressful?
Successful.
Oh, that's much better. Successful.
I was referencing the TikTok.
Yeah, this is starting off
it.
well. So why don't you, for our listeners that might not have the privilege of knowing who you are or anything about you, why don't you just take a quick hot second to update the How to Film Weddings listeners on who you are and what you do and what you're up to.
We're best friends and
business partners. We've owned our company for a little over 13 years, and we started as a photography team. We quickly realized that photo only has so much to offer during those moments for toasts, vows, the word portion of the day. And we made that jump as a team. So it was always just the two of us. And I would be video or photo, and Felicia would be video. And then slowly we've made our way into just video on wedding days.
Primarily, yeah. We still do a little photo, but we're mostly film now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've been doing this for, what'd you say, like 13 years?
13
so you've been
years,
doing it for a minute? Okay, awesome.
A hot minute, yeah.
Hot minute.
Yeah, and where are you guys located or primarily shoot?
Santa Barbara, California.
The sunny Santa Barbara.
The most expensive town in all of the land.
All of the land. The light is different
lots
here.
of weddings here.
For anyone who's ever shot here, the light is different. It hits the hills. It's different than anywhere else in the world.
West Coast is stupid. Like,
Yeah.
Even
You get fall colors.
that's true. But even earlier this year when we were in Oregon, and I know we were in the trees and stuff, but we were shooting at like 1 p.m, and it was like gorgeous. Like what?
Yeah.
This shouldn't work, but it did. Definitely.
It did.
So.
You can shoot all day there.
Whew.
Santa Barbara is the best. Been there multiple times. I love that you guys are from there. I love the two of these ladies, Nick. They were in our Mastermind group year one. And we've stayed in touch. Lots of good things going on. If you haven't heard the last episode, I don't remember the number. Maybe we'll put it in the notes of when you all were on, just to get some of the details of a little more of what you guys do. But today, Nick, we wanted to talk to these two because I don't know if you've heard of this thing called Super 8. It's been, it's a hot topic. Super 8 films. And these two have really dove into Super 8 and wanted to divvied into Super 8. So, if you're like, I'm not really interested in Super 8, or like that's too trendy or whatever, like listen to this episode and hear what these two have to say about it. So Super 8 films in weddings has become quite popular. Tell us a little bit how you got into shooting Super 8. When did that start? Why do you shoot Super 8? Give us kind of a little bit of the origin story of like, hey, let's get into some of the Super 8.
So when we went to school, we went to Brooks Institute of Photography, and we learned how to shoot film, develop film, print film in the darkroom. So that's kind of where our background is as far as photography goes. And then as soon as we started doing video, we're like, why are we just doing digital? Let's bring it back old school. Let's bring in the film again. And we didn't know a lot about film back then. We'd been shooting it as of now, we've been shooting it for 7 years, almost 8. And we just kind of picked up a camera and started playing with it. We made a bunch of mistakes.
So many.
Because, it's not something that we went to school for. But through the years, we've learned lessons through all of our mistakes. So that's kind of the background.
There's something so tangible when you pick up a Super 8 camera versus your digital camera. You can sit in the dark and in a corner with your digital camera, and you can get the moments as stealthy as possible. But the moment you pick up that Super 8 camera, there's a sound, there's a nostalgia for anyone who's over the age of 40 in the room. Yeah. There's something so physical about this camera. It draws attention. People want to talk to you. It brings out that connection with everybody at the wedding, not just your couple. So it's that like almost like a conversation starter, which is part of the reason we picked it up, and that love of film. There's something so magical about sending a roll out, and then you get it back, and
you have no idea what's on it.
It's bad, but you love every second of it, and there's only 3.5 minutes that you get to play with, but you love every single second of it, and it's just so magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, when I was in high school and stuff, and having the old disposable, cameras where you click and you twist, those and sending those off. And I remember like, that's something that I think kind of miss a little bit, is that not exactly knowing what it is that you're going to be getting back. I have a pretty good idea, but I'm not sure what it is that I'm going to be getting back. So yeah, that's a really cool element of it. I think for me, as I think about Super 8, and I love the idea, and I love kind of the nostalgia factor that it holds. I love, just the when you're shooting true Super 8, just the final look of it, like you're not sure how it's going to do and all that kind of stuff. But it's really, when you know nothing about something, it's kind of scary. It's very daunting. Like where do I begin? Where do I go for? So let's open this up. You've talked about Super 8, and someone's like, yeah, I've seen that before. I'd love to do that, but I have nowhere to begin, nowhere to start. Where do you guys recommend learning stuff, or what direction would you guys say, hey, these are some of the first things that you should do if you're interested in Super 8?
So honestly, the first thing is finding a camera that you love. There are so many, like there's such a wide range, and you can get one for $20 at a thrift store, and you can get one for $4,000 on Pro 8mm. Like the range is vast. And if it's something you're just trying to jump into and you just want to start doing it and playing around, you don't need to spend a ton of money. You can spend $100. You can get a decent camera. You don't need one that's manual. We don't shoot manual, we shoot auto, because on a wedding day, we want it to be quick and we want it to be accessible and easy. You can shoot manual, but then it's $1, what is it, $1.42 a second?
Yeah.
It's like $1.50 a second.
$1.40.
So it's not, if you're shooting manual, you really have to pay attention. And on a wedding day, you don't have the time to slow down.
Especially if you're doing digital too. If you're being hired just to do Super 8, that's one thing. But if you're doing both things, you have to kind of be really quick with everything. So shooting in auto is like the way to go.
Yeah. So finding a camera that's like a mid-range between $50 and $200, somewhere like within that, you can find a really good automatic camera. You can get a roll of film. Everybody's film choices are different. Our go-to is 500T. It's a tungsten balanced film. So if you're outside, it's a little bit more blue. If you're inside, it's adjusted for the tungsten light. So there's these balances and these things that you have to do, and you can color correct all of those imperfections. But for us, 500T is our all-day film. When we're outside, it's soft and light, and it brings back that like feel of Fuji 400 or that Jose Villa like outside look. And then you go inside and you still have the accessibility to shoot on the dance floor or to shoot toasts on this camera without there needing to be a ton of extra equipment. And because we're shooting in auto, it just happens. And we are shooting digital, so we don't need to nail all of these moments. We get a quick 3 to 5 second clip of something, and then we'll move on, right? We have our
little bits throughout the day.
Most of our cameras will have either Super 8, a dad cam, and a digital. And then sometimes we have our cell phones, because cell phones are really accessible for those like really bloopery moments if needed. We aren't tied to any one thing, but Super 8 definitely brings that connection and that feel. So starting with a mid-range camera and a couple rolls of film is really all you need.
Yeah, I think some of our favorite cameras have been that we've gotten at a thrift store, but you do have to test it. So that's like a whole nother ball game. Like, it's kind of risky, but they can be really cheap and they can be really, really fun and easy and simple, not with like a lot of buttons or anything.
No.
When it comes to the cameras, are these, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm genuinely, I don't know for sure. Are all of them like old, or are companies now making like new Super 8 cameras and stuff? Are all of them, 20, 30, 40 years old?
They're old.
They're old. They were made between the 60s and the 80s, like within that time bracket. Right before the dad cams is when they stopped. So the handheld handy cam is that was the death of Super 8. More or less. VHS.
Mini TV.
Okay. So there were a lot of cameras before the dad cam, but so with the less expensive version, Super 8 kind of got squished out, right? It was like king for a really long time. So between the 60s and the 80s, you get these really old cameras. When you're buying an old camera, you really need to just think about it as an old car. You need to make sure the motor works. You need to make sure that the gate's clear. You need to make sure that there's those little feet next to the gate that are going to push the film, that those still walk. So opening the camera, putting the batteries in, figuring out where the batteries go, how many batteries does it need?
Is the battery compartment corroded?
You have to treat it like an old car, because ultimately it is. It's an old workhorse. They were made for housewives to take home videos. So they're really not as scary as people might think.
Yeah.
They were made for our grandparents to use and to capture those moments of our parents and aunts and uncles on film. So if it wasn't scary enough for them to use, it shouldn't be scary enough for us to use.
I think when people say film, people just like, these days they're just like, oh, I don't know anything about film, but it's really not as scary as it seems.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Like, I've always been a little bit like, that's a little scary. But like thinking that it was made for, a housewife in the 60s, it's like, oh, I'm probably better at cameras than that. So let's talk about this too, because I'd love to know kind of how you first started. Like, if somebody wants to inch towards it, like say they find a camera, they get the right film, they've practiced a little bit, just take it to a wedding and start? Do you offer it for sale to start? Or what did you all do to kind of, because I know it's a big piece of what you all do now, and you can charge for it and stuff like that. But if somebody's wanting to get into it, what would your advice be on how you just got in, like brought it to the first wedding, what you did on the first wedding, those kinds of things?
Yeah, the very first wedding we brought it, and I think we shot one roll. We had no idea what we were doing. I mean, we looked up some things, but we were just basically testing at that point, and we got really lucky that wedding. Everything came out fine. But I think it's because we chose the right film. We had the good light, and we didn't shoot in the dark. You know what I mean? So, and then from there, we just brought it to certain weddings that we thought would look good on Super 8. And we were just practicing. So I would say the first 20 weddings that we showed up at, we were just solely practicing. We weren't charging for it. They weren't paying us. It was completely practice for us at that point.
Yeah.
And then slowly we started putting out that we, are shooting Super 8. So we would get clients asking, hey, can you shoot? I think our first wedding that we got paid for, we only shot Super 8. And she just really, really, really wanted Super 8 at her wedding. She didn't care about having digital, even though we did shoot some digital, because the way that we work, we can't show up to a wedding and only just do Super 8. We have to have some sort of digital backup, because film is film. That is the one thing that I think is scary about it. Not shooting it, but sending it off to your lab to get developed.
And it's not necessarily the film part that's as terrifying. I think it's the sending it in the mail. Like you sign off on it, you put it in the mail, and on a wish and a prayer and a dream that it makes it to your lab, and then the lab gets it and you get that email and you're like, whew, step one. And then it has to get through the processing, right? There's only been one occasion, and it was for still photography, where the lab didn't do a great job on our rolls of film and nothing was left. Like the development process was wrong.
But in all the years of shooting film, we've only had that one instance.
Yeah,
so.
And it was with still photography, not with Super 8. But problems can arise, and it can be from mailing or from the development process at the lab, the shipping back, the scanning. Like there's so many different variables. So we always have a backup. That was the point of that. We always have. I was like, where am I going with this?
You found it.
I found it. It's fine. We always have those digital backups, and it's just like double backing up your audio, right? You have your Zoom plugged in, but then you also have a task cam on someone. It's the same principle. Like we're shooting in Super 8, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be playful, and it's shot at 18 frames per second, so it's got that cool jittery, like retro look. But at the end of the day, you're not recording sound, and you're not recording those moments that were there to record. You don't hear ceremony, you don't hear toasts, you don't hear the dad's first look, you don't hear the groom bawling his eyes out. So for us, we back up those moments in digital, but we also get the nostalgia with the Super 8.
So our first wedding that we got paid for, we just showed up, and I think we were paid to shoot 2 rolls of film, but we ended up shooting 5 just because we wanted to make sure we had enough to work with. Sometimes your lighting environment is weird, and things can go wrong. Someone can step in your frame, because when you're shooting with Super 8, it's like you don't really understand what's around you. You have to look through the hole, so you can't look at the back of your camera. So there's like things that can go wrong like that. So we always shoot over what we're getting paid for. And then from there, it was kind of nice because people slowly started adding this into their packages. We'd put it out there. We'd talk about it. Are you guys interested in Super 8? We'll send you some examples. And people love it. They just love it. It's got this like...
Or they hate it.
Yeah.
There's never someone who's like, meh. I mean, I could go one way or another. It's either like, oh, I want that, or can you guys really not do that scratchy stuff? I don't want my film to be scratchy.
That's scratchy stuff.
Every single time, that's the description. They don't want it to be scratchy. Like, it's Super 8. It's actually very nostalgic.
It's very, very cool.
Thank you. It's cool, but I get it. So...
As you were talking, a couple of questions that I had. So, you talked about the price of the camera. To get one to get started, you said you can find one anywhere from $50 to $200, which it's for what we do in our neighborhood. I think that's fairly inexpensive to get something like this and just get started. But what is the average cost? And I'm sure depending on the type of film, what's kind of the average cost that you would say is a roll of film? And then what are those processing fees and stuff like that? Because I've heard from other people, it's like sending it off. That's where it'll get you. That's like that sort of. So what are those two things look like for people that might want to jump in this? Because they're like, I can do $250, but if I'm having to pay $100 or $200 every single time, like that might be okay. I'm out.
So the roll of film is going to cost you between like $30 and $45, depending on what type you get. And then once you send it off, there's different selections of things that will add up. So if you go into it and you get it scanned in log, which means, not color corrected whatsoever, it's going to be cheaper. You just have to do all the color grading yourself. When you start to add in color correcting and how you want it sent back to you, like if you want it just uploaded online, that costs, there's like different selections throughout the process of getting it scanned in. And
do you want a basic scan?
Yeah.
Do you want a 2K scan? Do you want a 4K scan? A 6.5K scan? Like there's so many different
options, but essentially it's going to end up costing you between $100 and $150 per roll. So, but the great thing about that is eventually down the road, you get to make these films for your clients. I mean, not only is that like just absolutely amazing, but at the end of the day, you can upsell the physical form of the Super 8 to make your money back. Like it's not as expensive as people think it is, and it's really nice, I'm not gonna lie, to get those scans back, to sit down and you can edit a film in like 30 minutes and make them one like little short Super 8 film, set it to music, add in some bows or whatever you want to add in from the officiant or toasts. And it's just, the workflow of that is so nice. Mm-hmm. It makes life easy and it's fun, and you feel like you're a part of more than just a videographer on their wedding day. Like, you show up, and because you've got this old camera in your hand, it's almost like you become a friend or a family member, because it's like those old home movies. It makes you feel like you're making a home movie for them. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you're showing up and you're a part of the family. You're not just some random person that showed up that day. So to hand that over to them is really, really nice, because they're going to look back at this and they're going to show their grandkids someday. And it's just, you're a part of that. But then also to just take that film and break it up and put it in their feature film, like their longer film. And it kind of breaks it up a bit. And if you've got digital to go along with it, there's just something really cool about that. It's like time warping or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So we're looking at, anywhere from like $140 to close to $200. Is that per roll?
Yes.
Like per.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
in the beginning,
like $500 or $600, right?
yes, and in the beginning there is definitely that cost, because you do want to do this for free multiple times before you ever ask for money from a client. Once you start asking for money from a client, there needs to be some sort of clause in your contract. Film is film. Like, you need to have something in there to protect you from the fact that it gets lost in the mail. Whatever it might be, the developing process goes wrong. Like, you need to have something in there to protect you. But also, if your camera batteries are whack and you don't realize, then everything's underexposed. So changing out your batteries in your camera often, or like the filter was off, or you didn't focus the entire day, or your diopter was off. Like, there are so many different things with shooting it that you just need to back yourself up.
I don't think that's a real word.
Diopter?
I don't think that's a real word. I think you just made that up.
She does like to make words up. I will call her out on that, but yeah.
It's that little thing on the back of your camera. Diopter?
Yeah.
I have no clue. I was just
Digital cameras have them.
You said a funny word.
I had this feeling that we had been going for like 15 or 20 minutes, and everything was very like serious and straight-laced and like good information, and I felt like we needed to mix it up just a little bit. Like that's
fair. She got real passionate there a second ago.
He almost said your mom has a diopter, and I almost laughed at it, but he didn't say that.
Don't do that.
Missed opportunity.
Got a diopter. Okay, I have a question about this.
Lori Miller is a nice woman. You leave her alone.
She is. I have met her, and she's a beautiful and nice woman. Okay. Back away from your mom. Sorry, I was talking about their mom's that has a diopter, not yours, Nick. I would never say anything to a man of your size about his mother, okay? Nick's so big.
Not with that beard.
Ooh, no, not really. Okay, so back over here on the Super 8 conversation.
I'm tall. I wouldn't say big. I'm tall.
You are tall. You're not very big. I could push you over.
You definitely could.
I weigh more than you, and I'm not big. Okay.
This is intermission.
Nick weighs like 135 pounds.
That's not true.
Okay, his beard weighs more than
Nick's
the rest
been
of him.
working out.
He has.
I really haven't.
He's taken a 6-week hiatus.
I definitely am.
For the holidays.
How long can we keep this part going where John is trying to say something and we won't let him?
There's a loop in the back of my brain that needs closed. Okay, I'm going to try again. You're spending like $500, $600 on 15 or 20 weddings. That's a pretty hefty investment to like getting this down. But
Yeah.
crockpot method, if you will, taking it slow and steady, learning, doing it the right way, getting your contracts in order, getting, your diopters dialed in, all those things. You got your feet working in the machine. You got your batteries non-corroded. Now we're ready to roll. No pun intended. Pun intended, actually. Okay.
Sounds good.
We're ready to roll. And now we're here in the end or beginning of 2023. What does it look like for you on what you're able to charge for this? And like how easy is it to sell, that sort of thing? Like, what is your average upsell for doing this?
Oh, that's me. like, who's talking? So it depends on the client. We'll have this conversation. Do you want Super 8? Is it something you're interested in? Is it something like, do you want a lot of it? Do you want full coverage from the very start of the day all the way through? Do you just want like a roll of portraits? So knowing where the client is feeling.
Yeah, everyone's different. We've had people ask to solely just cover the grand entrance. Like the grand entrance is super important to them, and they wanted like 3 rolls on that. So we did. We rolled the whole time. But every client's different, so we go into it asking questions first.
And usually it's dependent on the role. Like, how many rolls do you want? If they say, I want coverage from start to finish, that could be anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000. If they just want a roll, it can be between $800 and $1,000. But if they do decide they want 1 roll of portraits, we will shoot 2 rolls of portraits, or 1 roll of portraits and a roll of the wedding day, if that makes sense. So we have that extra. You only get 3.5 minutes to play with. And
with 1 roll.
It doesn't sound like a lot because it's not. But you take them in short bursts, right? You're not going to record a full ceremony on Super 8. One, you're going to be that guy in the back who's making all that noise. Like, they already don't like the photographers there clicking away. And now, so you're taking like 3 to 5 second clips. And those add up throughout the whole day. And you can really get a full wedding day on 1 roll of film if you're intentional and slow and methodical and you think about it.
Well, like, so. I think when I started, and I was like, and it took me so long to put together a 3.5 minute edit. And I was, just like of all the stuff that I filmed, and I was like, like, how can I make anything longer than this, when you first get started? And so, Now here's a question. And I imagine Felicia is just sitting there with her Super 8 in one hand and a stopwatch in the other. Like, I click, and are you like doing so both at the same time? So you just know it's like clicking the stopwatch and holding the trigger, and then you're done when you let go. Like, is there, or is it just kind of like you're kind of guesstimating like the whole day, or how does it work?
Yes, you're definitely guesstimating. I would say we'd go 10 feet at a time. So we usually like cover getting ready 10 feet, and then we'll move over to portraits 10 to 20 feet.
Nick is very confused.
I thought we were talking about in time, and now you're talking about distance.
So per roll is 50 feet.
Those 50 feet of that 50 feet of film will get you 3.5 minutes.
How many shoes is this?
27.
Okay.
You put on all your hats.
When you say 10 feet, are you actually walking? And then you're counting that off instead of a stopwatch. Are you walking?
I'm going to start at the beginning.
You're totally walking.
I'm going to start over.
Yeah.
So when you pick the film stock that you want, there are 6 different film stocks in America, 5 of which you can get readily. 1, you have to go to Super 8 Pro 8mm to get the 250D. Doesn't matter which roll of Super 8 film you get. On this roll of film, there is 50 feet worth of film. So if we opened up that bad boy, we popped open a reel, and Nick held one end of the film, and I held the other end of the film, there would be 50 feet in between the two of us.
How many meters is that?
Stop it.
Yes, there's literally 50 feet.
Okay. So it's literally 50 feet. So when Felicia says 10 feet, your camera has now gone through 10 feet worth of film.
Right.
Are we there? Okay.
Yep. I already knew all this.
Nick didn't.
Yeah.
On your camera, there is a little counter. Most cameras have a counter. It's from 0 to 50 for the 50 feet.
Like a gas tank, like empty to
correct.
full.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's just letting you know when you're getting to empty or not. So we'll look at our gauge. More often than not, we're just listening to the camera because the camera makes a different sound with film versus without film, and with film in it when it finishes. Does that make sense?
We know the difference between when you put a roll of film in and when there's no roll in whatsoever. There's a little bit of a pitch difference, and after time you get to you get used to that sound, and then when it stops, it actually kind of feels different too.
There's not a little. There's
it
almost
kind of has
a little
like a
wobble.
jolt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can look at your little meter, or you can.
Is there like a gas light that comes on when you're about to go on empty?
That would be amazing.
be
I think we should
sick.
redesign Super 8.
Come on, 1960s.
Gosh.
Jeez, how hard would that have been? I'm just saying. No, I'm
mean,
kidding. So you do about
great.
10 feet, which is like 20% of the roll, and you do 10 feet somewhere else and 10 feet somewhere
There you
else. You
go.
got like
Yeah.
four or five times, and you know it's time to change out a roll, time to change out some batteries. And if you're hired to do 50 feet, you're bringing 100 feet. That's just what you're saying, basically.
We're probably bringing 200 to be fair.
And
Yeah,
so
just to be honest.
nowadays, when someone hires you, I think I'm hearing that you're averaging anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 or $6,000 for them to do that. You're obviously building in the margin for profit, and you're having to go to the post office and mail this or do it from wherever. You're like, it takes a lot of extra time, but it also saves you a lot of time on the edit because you get all this footage. Whenever they scan the footage, how do you get it back? Do they email you a link with digital footage? Do you get the actual film back? What's the process look like after I've sent the footage? Does it come back to me? Like, is that
It
something?
does.
Okay.
Yes, but you can also have them keep it on file. So if you want to have them keep it until the end of the year, you can. If you want them to send it back after a month, you can. If you want to keep it there to have them rescan it in, if you feel like it turned out really well and you want it scanned in at a larger resolution, we typically have them send it back to us, the physical film and a hard drive with all of the scanned film in. There's been times where we've had to rush ship something.
Don't do that.
It's very expensive, but we had gotten a camera off of eBay and we wanted to test it with a roll of film. So we shot something really quick. And then I think we sent it off on a Monday and it came back on the Wednesday. We had it in our hands on Wednesday.
But it was like,
So-
what, 3 times the cost?
It was like $450. Yeah.
So you said something, and I want to hit it real quick. You said you can scan it in different resolutions. I want people to hear this because with film, you have the ability to scan it in at larger resolutions, more than just like 480p or 720 or what. What resolution do you find to be your sweet spot for price and quality?
We scan in at 4K.
Oh.
That way, if we want to zoom in, we can.
Okay.
So having that option is nice.
And we also get it with an overscan, so you can see the sprocket. And this is like, I don't know.
What's a
maybe
sprocket?
making
I
this
think
up.
you made up that word too.
Does it
It's
touch?
right next
Does the
to the
sprocket
diopter.
touch the diopter? Yeah.
So when somebody's film pops up on your Instagram feed and you see that little square and the black line and the black line, you're seeing the sprocket
Sprocket.
Sprocket is where it pulls the film through.
where the feet
Man.
climb.
And that's
go like this.
the little black square that you see that most
Correct.
people are just getting an overlay and putting that
Yep.
on their footage.
They're
Correct.
slapping it over.
slap,
Yep.
slippity slap.
So we like to overscan so you can see that part, but you can also have it scanned in so you don't see the sprocket.
And part of the reason for the 4K scan is you can now crop it in. So if you don't want to see the sprocket,
You have options.
you have options.
I like options.
Makes sense.
Isn't she?
And if you're putting it on Instagram, like you're going to have to do the vertical form, TikTok, you're going to have
So-
to like blow it up. And
So you get this 4K footage, and are they literally sending you a downloadable link of this footage as
Yes.
well? Is that what they're doing? And then they're mailing it back if you want it.
you can have them send in a online link, or you can have them send it back on a hard drive or like a thumb drive. Yeah. You have options.
So many options.
We like options.
Yeah.
And then like there's some of them where it's like you have the image and then you have like the bottom half above it and like the top half below. Like, is that an overlay that you guys are selecting, or is that just how it always comes, or is that the film depend on the film that you use? Like, are all those things add on? Like, if you just wanted the square of what you filmed, like without anything else,
It
like,
would
is that
just depend on how you scan it in.
Okay.
What you see is how
Yeah.
you scan it in. There are cameras that actually film. So there are some cameras that will film just square, but we actually found one of my favorite cameras at a thrift store for $15. And instead of it being just a square, it's a square on one side, and then on the other, it's like a triangle, like an angle. It's so cool. I love it.
And that goes back to like choosing your camera. Like every camera flavor is different. So pick the camera you like. Like my favorite right now is the Canon
314.
314. Thank you. Like, which one? We have 6 of them. The 314 is my favorite, but it's a true rectangle, and the square is right on the edge. The sprocket is right on the edge. The one that she's talking about, had we have Googled it beforehand and like, what's the frame look like for X camera? You can see all cameras are different. It's kind of like their signature. It's like an artist's signature. Yeah. Even from Canon to Canon, they vary just a little bit. So it's like doing that research, figuring out what you want your Super 8 footage to look like on the end. If you're getting it truly cropped in, it doesn't matter because you're going to crop all of that out anyway. Yeah. Part of the allure for us is not cropping it out. We want our Super 8 footage to look like Super 8 footage, not like digital footage like Super 8 with a grain filter over the top and a blur and a desaturation. Like, we want people to know, oh, that's legit. It's not pretend.
And I'm just wondering what you guys do. I know with one of the amazing things about film photography, right, is that it kind of is what it is, and there's not really color correction to it. You know, it's kind of you take the film and you might do a little bit, but it's not as much as the digital process. So when it comes to Super 8 stuff, are you doing much when it comes to the color grading, color correction? Or are you just kind of taking it, this is how it was shot, this is how it is, and sticking it in that way?
Yeah, basically. We're not doing much color correction at all. I mean, there might be some overexposure here and there, or some underexposure, but that's about it. Like, there might be some color shift just a little bit, but not crazy. It's really nice. Like, you wake up, you check your email, you've got the email from Pro 8, and you go to town and you've got a film in like a half hour. I love it.
Nick and I have to tell you about one of our favorite places to upload our wedding films, and that is Love Stories TV. Love Stories TV is one of the best free resources for us wedding filmmakers. The best part is they are bringing the couples to us. All we have to do is upload our films and we are good to go. Upload unlimited wedding films to your completely free business page. Setup is easy and your films can be live in just minutes. Now is the perfect time to start uploading to Love Stories TV. So head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv to check out all of the details and see how Love Stories TV is giving away $10,000 in cash to wedding filmmakers just like you. That's howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv to start uploading and connecting with the right couples today.
One question that we see wedding filmmakers asking, what is the best site for licensing music? We have one answer, MusicBed. I have been exclusively using MusicBed since 2016, and our films are better because of it. I have been told during consultations that couples love our films because they feel raw, authentic, and that the music wasn't cheesy. MusicBed has a roster of incredibly talented musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and you can hear the difference. Find the perfect song with MusicBed's intuitive search features like genre, mood, beats per minute, and key, which is probably my favorite of the search parameters. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed to do what I did and take your wedding films to the next level. Use promo code HTFW22 at checkout to receive 1 month free with the purchase of any annual subscription. That's howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. And we are back from break with Felicia and Maddie, talking about all things Super 8. And, so we've talked about the type of camera, what you could expect to spend on that. We talked about film and processing and all of that sort of stuff. One thing that maybe I want to take my Super 8 camera that I just purchased to a wedding. I've never done it before. What are maybe some tips that you would recommend for the wedding day, on the wedding day, that you had to learn the hard way when it came to shooting with the Super 8 on a wedding day?
So one of the biggest things is letting everyone know, whether it's your couple and they've paid you, so they already know you're shooting Super 8, or maybe you're surprising the couple with Super 8, and then the photographer. Letting the photographer know, hey, I'm shooting Super 8, just like a film photographer would be like, hey, I'm shooting film, you need to take a step back. As the videographer, you let them know, hey, I'm shooting Super 8 film. I only get one shot. It's $1.42 a second. Please don't step in front of me. If you hear the sound, please, if we could stay shoulder to shoulder, that would be fabulous. It's inevitable. Somebody will walk into your frame. Like, it just happens. So being very cognizant of that.
Super mindful of what you're shooting, and even like going over certain things with your couple before you shoot. Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to run around you, making sure everyone knows what's happening so that no one ruins the shot.
It's a much more directed medium than digital. You can't be, you know, I'm going to be really stealthy and I'm going to just try and get what I can get. You have to step in. So if that's someplace where you're lacking as a videographer, I know a lot of times we can take a back seat to the photographer and just get what we get, and we're happy about it, especially in the beginning. Knowing that and being like, hey, these are the things that I need you to do. This is the shot. It's going to take me 12 seconds. It's going to take me 15 seconds. I don't need a lot. This is what I need. And just communicating with the photographer is hugely important with Super 8.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking up and saying what you need.
Really on any part of the day for any reason, digital or not.
Yeah.
But Super 8 will teach you to speak up, because if you don't speak up, you're wasting money. Like, you're truly just, like, you might as well just be throwing money as you're walking. Like, there's no point if you're not cognizant
That could
of
be
it.
fun. I'm just saying. That could be a fun
One
thing.
day, I'm just going to walk down the street and throw hundreds.
Oh,
my
you
goal.
just instead of a Super 8 camera, just get one of those money guns and just like walk down the street and hold it. It's kind of the same thing. It's got a trigger. It's got a dialometer thing on there too, and a sprocket. You know, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's got all the things.
Oh, jeez. I shouldn't have said anything. I derailed us. Okay. I'm bringing us back. Okay.
Bring it back.
So
luck.
someone's out there listening. They want the sprocket. They want the
I hope someone's
diopter.
out there listening.
So it's the diopter.
Diopter. That's what I said. It must have been an internet thing. So they're interested in getting going. We heard a little news that you all are putting something together for people that are interested in Super 8. I would love for you to tell us what that is and how the listener or listeners, depending on how many people that day, are listening to the podcast. Where can people find this? What is this? Give us the details of everything about what you're putting together. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I want you to do it.
Take it away, Phyllis.
We are coming out with the Super 8 course.
We're really excited about it. We've honestly been working on it for almost a year.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you start writing and you're like, oh, and then this.
And
Oh,
you
and
realize
then this.
just how much you really do know about, and all the little things there is to Super 8 and
There's
all
a-
the things you shouldn't do, I think is more important to note that.
Yeah. There's a lot of nuances when it comes to film. And it's when you write it down, or when we were at Mastermind, people at your retreat last year, people would walk up and ask us questions about it. And the amount of knowledge that we had, we didn't realize.
Yeah.
Like, we've been doing this a really long time, and it's just second nature to us. So for me, at least, when somebody asks me a question, I don't realize how much I've learned over the years and just kind of stored away in the back of my head until someone gets me going and I have these conversations with people.
It's hard to get her to stop talking, to be honest.
Thanks, Bill.
But it's really nice because the amount of things we've learned through the years, I think the reason why we wanted to come out with this course is to show everybody that it's not as intimidating as you think it is. Mm-hmm. And it's just really fun. It's a nice little way to be creative outside of digital.
Yeah.
But then we also learned a lot. So there's a lot of tips and tricks about what not to do in this course, which is nice.
Yeah.
So you don't have to make the same mistakes and spend a lot of money wasting money trying to learn things that we've already learned. So you don't have to go through that.
In the last 7 years, we've spent hundreds of hours on YouTube, going from video to video to video. How do you load a roll of film? Where are the battery compartments? What film do I use? And this is the easiest way to get all of that information without bouncing from video to video, from person to person to person, and hearing some of the same stuff. And then you get a little nugget of information. So it's just a condensed version of all the things I wish I could have just sat and watched. Mm-hmm. And then you get the blooper moments between the two of us because we can't leave those out.
There's a 4-minute video of bloopers. Sorry, not sorry.
It's a bonus.
So Nick and you all are way better friends than me and the two
How
of you
dare
for some
you?
reason.
No,
I don't know why.
when I was
How dare
getting ready.
you? You text Nick. You do not text me for some reason. And Nick was like, hey, Maddie and Felicia are coming out with a course on Super 8. And I was like, that's so dope. I wish I would have heard from them instead of from you. But the second thing I thought was...
How dare you, sir?
Second thing I thought was like, I remember you all at our retreat last year with your Super 8 camera filming me and Nick. I remember the noise, the sprockets and the production
Wait, do
meters
that
going
again.
off.
Do that again.
Like, yeah, the noise, and it was awesome. And just thinking to myself, like, this is so cool, like that wedding filmmaking has gotten to a spot in education where like a course on Super 8 could even be created. And I just think back 10, 12 years ago, whenever I was getting going, trying to figure things out. And it's just like taking all of that information, similar with our course or whatever, it's just like, and compressing it down into only the stuff you need to know in an organized fashion so you can get to where you want to go faster. People can invest the time and the money and the energy that you did for 7 years, or they can get a fast track and say, ooh, I can learn all this stuff and get rid of all the stuff I don't need to know. I know I can trust you all, and then get going and start making money. So if people want to check this out, where do they go? What do you have for them if they're listening today? Because I know the name of it and I'm excited for you to tell us all that too.
So we landed on the name Super Duper 8. That is the name of our film.
Feel really good about that.
Super Duper 8.
Super duper.
It's very on brand for us. Things
It
should
is.
never be taken too seriously. It's just there's too much in life to be taken seriously. And your job shouldn't be one of them, apparently. So Super Duper 8 is what it's called. You can go to iHeart Creative Films Instagram, and there we'll have a link tree with there's going to be some freebies that you can sign up for. You can sign up for a wait list. And you can get a free module to the course so you can see what we're working with.
I mean, that
Stop
sounds
it.
okay, Nick, I guess.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go get that freebie just so I can. Is the blooper reel on the freebie? Is that a freebie?
That's the freebie.
Can I ask a question? Are the bloopers called Super Duper bloopers? Because if they're not, can they be?
Ooh, they can.
What about Super Duper Bloopy?
Super duper blooper.
Ooh.
That's what I just said. That was my idea. Why is that Felicia's idea all of a
She didn't
sudden?
like it when you said
What
it.
about blooper duper? Duper blooper.
Okay.
Now we're just. now we're just.
This is
Brainstorming
really
meetings.
good.
I
this
love
is good.
brainstorming, but these are bad brainstorming ideas.
It's not true.
So go over to superduper8.com to see Super 8 course stuff. And maybe you can see some super duper bloopers. And lastly, Nick, I wanted to, before we jumped off with these two, I don't know if you know or not, our mastermind group is opening up in like 2.5, 3 weeks. And if you didn't know, Maddie and Felicia were part of our mastermind group. They're actually
OG.
coming out.
We're the OGs.
Yeah, they are.
Sorry, go
They're
ahead.
coming out
Yeah.
to film and take photos of our mastermind retreat in Palm Springs. We're really excited to see you all in person in just not too long. For anybody out there, just a quick what your experience was with Mastermind, who should join this. Don't just blow smoke. Give us the honest truth. If someone's out there still listening to this, that means they care about how to film weddings if they've made it this far. So tell us about your experience with Mastermind, what it did for you, and who should be joining, who should not be joining, any and all feedback.
Yes, I think the biggest thing that we got out of Mastermind, and it's something that we don't have here in Santa Barbara, is a videographer, filmmaker community. Like there's maybe a handful of people that do video here. And the fact that we were able to enter Mastermind and be a part of this huge community, and we can like bounce ideas off of all these other people and ask them questions that, we don't know the answers to, or just to like troubleshoot with everybody. Like that was the biggest, coolest thing about Mastermind, is feeling like we're a part of something.
And having those meetings, like coming together in a meeting, and then, the very end, we would have the late night hangs.
Yeah.
Where it was after, and you two might have jumped off, but the Zoom was still open for us to be like, oh my gosh, and then this happened. And somebody else is like, oh my gosh, me too. And it's like this, if you need that, like, hand-holding camaraderie, you now have it with these people all across the country. And if you have a wedding on the other side of the country, like you're traveling to a wedding and you can't get there, we have people that we can contact now all across the US. So building that community of people, not just to be like, hey, this is a question that I have with this client or with this contract, with this inquiry. It's like hey, I'm coming to North Carolina. Can somebody help just in case?
Can we get a second shooter? Is anybody free? And the amount of times I've second shot for people and they've shot for us is just been amazing. And we wouldn't have had that had we not been a part of Mastermind. But also the retreat was so cool too, because you spend a year with all these people and then you go to the retreat and you get to see them in person. And that, like, I want that just to be every day.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave that.
There's something about building the relationship with somebody from behind the screen. You see them, you talk about their business, you talk about your business. Everybody's so interconnected. And then you get to this retreat and you're best friends before ever being in the physical room together. So there's something so magical about that, like coming together and building that community.
For us, it was the connection.
And for us, it's always the connection, though.
Thank you.
Always. I love hearing that.
Yeah. It was definitely a great experience for us to be a part of and put on and everything. But just hearing this, that was one of the big things that John and I really wanted to help build with Mastermind, was the community aspect of thing, was the relationship. Because as a small business owner, I mean, I know you guys are doing this together, but still, it can be a very lonely thing if the only thing that you're doing, even if you're with someone else, is, we're focusing on our business and doing this, and just having that connection with other people and having that thing, hey, we have these weekly meetings set up, so you're almost forced to get to each other, if you want to take full advantage of everything. And then, it was definitely an incredible experience, and we're so grateful to have gotten to know you guys better and hang out with you and get to know you. And, now, because of that relationship that we built, we're able to have you guys back on the podcast and talk about this cool new thing that you guys are getting ready to do. So again, if you guys would like to get more information about the amazing Super Duper 8 course, head over to iHeart Creative Films Instagram account, and there you'll be redirected through a link or something where you can get more information on that. So Maddie, Felicia, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It's been awesome.
It has been.
Absolutely.
Love you guys. It's like going on a double date, best friend double date.
Oh, it is. That is how it feels.
Best friend double date.
I was getting ready to, and I'm like, I feel like I'm getting ready for a best friend double date.
The end?
Thank you.
That's the end. That's the end. That's how we'll
Thanks
do
for
it.
listening.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Maddie, Felicia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Remember, head over to their Instagram account, iHeart Creative Films, if you would like to learn more about their Super Duper 8 course, which is going to be incredible. Towards the tail end of the episode, we talked about our Mastermind group. If you are interested in learning more about Mastermind, signing up to possibly be a part of that, to get more information, to see who the speakers are going to be, which we are releasing very, very soon, head over to mmxhtfw.com. There you can get on the wait list and more information for things about this year's Mastermind. Again, John, it has been great to hang out with you. Listeners, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, we will see ya.
See ya.
Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films? Look no further. Our friends over at VidFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. VidFlow is pay-per-use with no large upfront costs or commitment, and you can cancel at any time. VidFlow offers a premium viewing experience for all of your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years of hosting and an experience for your couples that will blow them away. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/vidflow, where you can save 20% off a yearly business membership by using promo code HTFW20. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way. Give your couples something to rave about by using VidFlow.